what do you think about, what's your experience with this, to use the live vaccine during the production phase? You think, is there something that we can do on the rearing phase to can have better protection on the production phase?
Well,
Or if we have high challenge in the production phase, we have nothing to do, and we have to have more vaccines, live vaccines during the production phase?
what we can do in rearing, which is the most vital part of any vaccination program, we can have a good live priming. We can use a killed vaccine, maybe even twice. So we can induce a lot of antibodies. We can achieve high antibody levels against the challenge virus. We also get, due to the live vaccinations, local protection in the respiratory tract against challenge. So in the end of the rearing program, you should have a bird with high titers and good local protection. Well, these high titers, we know, without challenge, at some point, titers start to go down. That's if this after 40, 50 weeks, you can expect that titers start to decrease. If you have a real good start, titers will remain high for quite some time, but at some point they start to drop. But local protection is shorter. Nobody knows exactly how long after our vaccination programs, but what we have seen, let's say within something like 4, 5, 6, 8 weeks, local protection starts to go down. And IgA does not last that long. We know that. That's biology. We cannot change that. So you can be quite sure that if you, let's say, a bird of 30 weeks still can have a lot of antibodies, which are very important, but the local immunity can already be low. Well, if then a bird gets infected, well, there is not a high level of local immunity. The virus can most likely still start to replicate locally. And then the immune system will take over. It will not get too bad. And it most likely the vaccine will not spread to the oviduct. So you will have no drop in egg production, but you do have already virus replication. So let's say the protection against drops in egg production has 2 layers, the local one and then the systemic one. Well, the systemic one can stay high for quite some time, but not the local one. If you want to keep the local one on a higher level as well, you need to stimulate the bird with a live vaccine or a live strain. So that is the purpose of revaccination during lay, that to keep the local protection also at a higher level. And I don't think this should be the normal vaccination program. Hopefully you have a good rearing program, good high titers, and the field situation is at such a level that you don't have to vaccinate your birds during lay. Because vaccination during lay, well, it costs money, and it is a live vaccine. They can cause some damage, so they can stimulate coli or MG or MS, or so. If you do it for the right reason, to keep the protection against IB at a high level, to prevent damage by those infections, that's a good reason. If you do it just for routine, let's just do it. Don't do it. That's not a good reason to stay on vaccinating during lay. So in the end, for high challenge areas, I don't think there's scientific evidence, but I think the field evidence is quite clear that revaccination during lay can help to keep the door, well, maybe not completely closed for IB, but to make it more difficult for IB to cause high damage.
And Dr. de Wit, would you vaccinate it close to the peak of production, or would you give an interval of not vaccinated during that period?
Well, here we have two, I would say a 50-50 split of opinions. Some people say, do not vaccinate between, well, let's say 30 weeks before you first have the peak, and then you start to use the vaccine during production. Other people say, no, just continue from the rearing program. Let's say by the end of the rearing, in layers, maybe at 17 weeks, or in breeders, maybe at 20 weeks, you still use a vaccine, and then every 6 weeks. Personally, well, if I talk to a lot of experts in the field, and they don't agree. So that makes me a bit, personally, I would say, I think if it would be my chickens, I would take the risk of vaccinating them already every 6 weeks after the end of rearing program, so also before the peak, because I would assume that if I have a good vaccination program during the rearing program, 2, 3 live strains, killed one, good application check, I have high titers, high level of protection. Why would this not protect against the vaccine strain at, I don't know, 24 weeks? This would be a little bit strange.
Yes.
So, but okay, like I said, when I talk to experts, it's about 50-50. So if people say, no, under my conditions, I do not want to vaccinate between 20 and 30 weeks, okay, that's okay with me, but I have some difficulty in understanding why that would be such a problem.